Well, we got to admit, we kind of feel stupid for thinking the last chapter was this week's chapter. No, made an error. It's okay. We're humans after all. Chapter 685 was thought to be the final chapter, but thankfully it wasn't. For the haters, you gotta wait longer. The series decided to go 10 years later just to give us the perfect end. It's not the end, nor was it perfect. It has its ups and downs, but so far, it's the best we can get. I understand there is a time limit, and I understand that he has to end in the next chapter. We don't really know what is the story behind it. People like to blame on Weekly Shonen Jump, but what if it's just Kubo got tired of his own manga? Anybody can keep on guessing until there's a clear-cut answer, but right now, that's speculation, and we can only focus what we have and what we're going to get in the next chapter. Depends how you look at this chapter. On one hand, as a standalone chapter, it's pretty fair. On the other hand, as the ending goes, it's actually pretty lacking. Good part is, it has a nice start with Shunsei opening up talking to a tombstone. I understand there is some parts that we have to discuss. It's about the time skip, and I'll get to that later. You get the idea that tombstone belongs to Yukitake. It's sad to know that he actually did die. I mean, granted, he was sick, but this is a confirmation 100% that he's dead. And it's actually pretty touching at some point. Old best friend visiting before the ceremony for the new captain that has been building up from this beginning of the chapter. I also like the Mayuri with the fact that he actually brought back Nemuri. It's Nemuri Hachigo. And this time it's a little kid who actually speaks very loud apparently. And it's still actually kind of nice to see this moment because the fact that you could tell that he does care about her. Even though it was started off as an experiment, it does seem like it's more of a sentimental feeling instead. It's also nice to see Kenpachi moving forward without Yachiru. I don't know what exactly happened to her. I don't even know if she died. All I remember it was that it has to do with the whole Bankai procedure. It never really explained that thoroughly what exactly happened in the aftermath. We only know she just disappeared, and I guess you could call it death or you could call it going back to what it was. It depends how you see it. This whole entire chapter builds up of having a new captain for the 13th squad. You only keep on climbing as the chapter keeps on building up and building up. And it turns out to be Rukia. It's nice to see Rukia get a promotion, a captain of 13th division, which is something that actually carries on from his old sensei. So that's something that's really kind of nice to see how Kubo, a good treatment for the ending. Also, Rukia looks nice with that long hair. To begin with, the time skip happened so abruptly. You gotta remember the last page we had from the last chapter. It was Yao just getting sliced, and then all of a sudden we're all in peaceful land. Out of nowhere. We don't have any explanation for what happened in that fight. We don't get to know what happened to Aizen. We don't know if Yao said any final words. We don't know anything about Aftermath. We probably get some of the Aftermath in the next chapter, mainly for Ichigo, but it still seems so abruptly. And even if it does explain in the next chapter somehow, it just seems like he's trying to do the epilogue as much as he can, as to say he has 40 pages, but it just doesn't seem timed well. It just seemed out of nowhere, and it just makes you feel like you wasted so much time in that war arc, because it feels like it doesn't pay off so well after 200 chapters for the war arc. So now it seems like it just brushed off easy because it wants to get to the end, and I understand the schedule. Also, there's another problem. I feel like it's just me, and I can understand the hardcore fans will tell me that you have to be very hardcore of this series and dedicated to this series to understand and remember every single part of the character, and that may be true. Too many characters in this series, because you could either fall to two things. You either have too many characters to focus and you don't even know who's supposed to get the main spotlight, who's supposed to get any spotlight, or it's the fact that these characters don't get that enough development, so you don't know if you should care about them or not. And many of them, I actually kind of forgot their names or forgot their position. So now all of a sudden it's all about the captain. He's a captain, I'm the captain, we're all captains, and they took a lot of time just to have a conversation for running gags or anything like that, instead of like giving a good spotlight. I'm no one to compare to other series, but Assassination Classroom has an ending where they spotlight spotlight many of the characters on their successful accomplishment. Whenever they get their dreams, or some of them don't get their dreams yet, but they're working on it, Bleach feels like none of them has their dream and they're just back to where we were. So in a way, it tells me, is the character already developed well, or it's just too many characters that doesn't really have anything to do but just being there with their personalities just to play along for comedy's sake. You got Kenpachi, Mayuri, and Shunsei to get their spotlight, and then Rukia, of course, at the end. The other characters that has been named and has been done a lot of things just seems like they're stuck in that position, especially Renji. Seems like he's just there to be vice captain, and I guess a lot of people can now officially say he's definitely the Yamcha of the series. As much as I like Rukia being the captain, the ceremony really got glossed over really quick, especially with the fact this chapter focus on building up on who's going to be the new captain and the ceremony and all that stuff. Once you got the captain, immediately it goes to the next part of the story. They didn't have any speech, they didn't have any momentum carry on. It just goes straight to that next part, which supposedly believe that Youch is alive or somewhere, or something that comparable to Youch. It just tells you this whole thing is rushed. And going back to the too many characters thing, maybe they would have got a lot of spotlight if this wasn't rushed. So it's a confusion feeling, at least for me, I'm having with this series. But I'll probably have to take over to see if these characters are really well developed, or it's just so many characters that it gets a little developed, or it just doesn't get that much spotlight, or it's just the fact it's getting rushed that we don't get to see any momentum or anything that is something remarkable out of them. So now the next chapter is officially the final chapter. No more bloopers, no more errors, nothing like that. I guess the next chapter will focus on the human side, and I don't know where Ichigo is, but time will tell. And this chapter itself is not that bad. I don't hate this chapter, I don't dislike this chapter. The fact that it does cover some good parts, and it's nice to see Rukia being promoted. I just wish it wasn't rushed, and you could say that if it wasn't rushed, a lot of things would have been different. It may be true that it could have been different, but what we got is what we have to accept, and what I see is just a fair chapter. Chapter 685 gets a 6. It's just one more chapter, and then we can finally look over everything about this series. And yes, there is an announcement, a huge announcement. They made it into a first big page. It has to be a big deal. And I know a lot of people like to guess that it's the anime second season, second run, whatever you want to call it. It's possible. It's possible. And you know, if it does happen, I will watch it. I hope Studio Perry is ready, because they were actually pretty decent back then. I mean, they have fillers, yeah, but I'm talking about the quality. It was decent, I have to admit. I don't know about now, but whatever. If there's an anime announcement, and if it does happen, I'll watch it. Let's see how much difference would it be for the anime over the manga, because sometimes I like to think that Bleach anime actually suits me more, believe it or not. Maybe because it really fits well with the action, and maybe the pacing is actually much better in the anime. And now that the series come to an end, if an anime happens, there's no need to stall time, there's no need for filler, go all the way. My thoughts are told, don't let yours on hold. Leave a comment below. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this and want more of this, subscribe to my channel, and my world will be yours to stay. Until next time, take care.